out of the benevolence of my heart, I can designate that unused premium to go to a deserving American. Now, I don't think anybody sitting out here could disagree with the options that I just presented. But it is about incentivizing healthy living. Therefore, the insurance companies don't make a profit off of Alan West being healthy and taking care of himself. That's what we have to get back to, is to get back to promoting the individual.
Congressman, a long question. Haley Heatman, Fort Lauderdale. Congressman West, you have voted to defund NPR, defund Planned Parenthood, and reduce funds to the U.S. U.S. Institute of Peace, amongst other things. These measures would save the U.S. government several $100 million. However, our current military spending is presently estimated to be almost $1 trillion per year and growing. In fact, a Swedish think tank recently released statistics that show the U.S. military spending has nearly doubled since 2001.
I got the essence of the question. The gentleman from NPR said on tape he didn't need federal government resources, so we granted him his wish. As far as Planned Parenthood, Planned Parenthood is a $1 billion not-for-profit organization, which if I went back and I read some reports, their fiscal reports, over the past 2 to 3 years, Planned Parenthood has posted $110 to $120 million of profit. What we're talking about is the American taxpayer that is contributing 33% to the budget of Planned Parenthood, $352 million. I think, as being a good steward of the American taxpayer dollar, I think that there are better places where we can invest that $352 million. I will also tell you this: if you drive up to, and I would love.
Where's the women go?
Women go to the Holy Cross Women's Healthcare Center, which I just visited 2 days ago, which is once again private donations to help the building. Now let me go back and talk about the United States Institute of Peace. It's a very beautiful building. It's located about catty corner away from the Lincoln Memorial. I have always thought that the United States Institute of Peace is the Pentagon. And that is where constitutionally we're supposed to secure and protect the United States of America and its citizens. Now, if people don't understand something, I'm not turning my back on the people that I served with for 22 years. That we are sent to places that are not nice, that are absolutely tough. And if you have to understand one thing, 8 U.S. soldiers lost their lives in Afghanistan today because an Afghan officer turned his weapon on them in Kabul International Airport. This is what is happening with our men and women. And I'm going to make sure that they're going to have all the proper resources so that they can use it.
Scoble and Honey Gardens read balanced budget amount. What revision would keep taxes in check? Taxes could just rise with increased spending.
Well, that's why I say that when you talk about reforming the tax code, that's one of the important things. And that's why I look at the personal income tax, going to the flat tax there, flattening out the corporate business tax rate, and then the most important thing is curtailing the spending up in Washington, D.C. And that's how we're going to get to the balanced budget. We've got to prioritize our functions in Washington, D.C. if we're going to get to a balanced budget. You know, how many people remember the movie Dave? Remember when he brought his CPA in and they sat down and they went line by line over the federal budget? I gotta tell you something. That's what we should be doing. That's how a silly little freshman congressman from South Florida found a line for production, reproduction, and training in the Department of Defense. He said that doesn't make any sense. And we found a cut in that budget.
Next question, Michael Midas, Fort Lauderdale. Why are we in Libya? Wasn't the president forced to go to Congress regarding an initiative? What are the chances of a constitutional amendment to term limits in both the House and Senate?
Well, let me answer the last one first. You know, the people up in Washington, D.C. right now, those guys are not going to vote for term limits. It's just all. I mean, I will tell you right now that my mental term limit, of course, based upon being reelected, if I can't make a difference in 6 to 8 years, I'm coming home. I don't want to stay up there. Now, the other thing, Now, the other thing is this. I sit on the Armed Services Committee, and we had the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Admiral Mullen, and we had the Secretary of Defense sit before us in a hearing. And we asked them, why are we here in Libya? And the question was, we're there to protect innocent civilians. I spent a few days in the military. You can't protect innocent civilians from 30,000 people. No one can explain to us who the rebels are, who is their leadership, who are we making deals with. You know, my concern is that somehow we have gotten co-opted and made complicit into a very bad thing that's happening all across North Africa and into the Middle East. And if we were really concerned about protecting innocent civilians, then why didn't we do something 18 or 19 months ago with Iran? With a country that but that cannot be the measuring stick of us committing our military forces. Now, a lot of people say bring the boys back home. Let me tell you what I don't agree with. I don't agree with nation building and occupation style warfare. And that's what we've gotten bogged down with in these different countries. I believe in this. You have to utilize the #1 asset of the United States military, and that's the strategic mobility. To be able to track this enemy, find where he is trying to establish his sanctuaries, reach out and strike him, and then pull back. There is no reason why the United States of America had to sit back and watch a group of Somali pirates execute 4 Americans. There are certain places in the world that people don't understand one thing, and that's strength. And when you don't show strength, then you get the type of reaction that we see all across the world. When the Arab League says to the United States of America, we will deal with the Iran situation ourselves because we don't have the patience and you don't have the will to do it yourselves. When Saudi Arabia is going to Russia because they don't believe that the United States of America will help to secure the Straits of Hormuz or the Iranian influence that's going through that theater of operations. And never forget that Shah of Iran, not the greatest of fellows, but when we allowed the Shah of Iran to be deposed, what did we get? And with the Ayatollah, you got Hezbollah, and you got the Hamas. And how many people here can remember a gentleman in a wheelchair by the name of Leon Klinghoffer? It was pushed off the Achilles Lara into the Mediterranean Sea. That was Hezbollah. And see, before Al-Qaeda came around, the #1 Islamic terrorist group that had killed more Americans than anyone else was Hezbollah. And it's Hezbollah that has the capability of striking every city in Israel with a missile right now. That's the threat, that's the danger.
So good lead in the next question. Clinton, Chanel, Boca Raton, you'd like to hear your thoughts on Israel.
My thoughts on Israel are very simple. The The United States of America recognized the modern state of Israel back in May of 1948 within 16 minutes of them declaring themselves an independent state. America has always been there to support Israel. And if we do not support Israel, then the next target is the United States of America. Israel is the only bright, shining light in a sea of darkness, full of despots, the dictators, the autocrats, and the theocrats. Right now is, without a doubt, the most threatening moment for the future of the state of Israel. First time in 40 years, Iranian warships went through the Suez Canal. Rockets and mortars have increased coming into southern Israel out of the Gaza Strip, because the Egyptians, who are now supposedly pro-democracy, the military gave Hamas the green light. Egyptian military officials traveled over and had meetings in Syria. Israel is right now facing a three-front war.
But what will the United States do?
Ask your president.
If Israel puts in that spot, I'm afraid that Obama will not do anything. That's what worries me. And what will Congress that you voted for?
Well, hold on, time out. The most important thing is this. The United States of America has to show the logistical support and the material support to Israel. The United States of America cannot allow the United Nations to unilaterally declare this summer a Palestinian state. If that happens,
Next question from Owen Rosen, Deerfield Beach. Is there any way that we can get USAID to stop sending all the money to other countries and spend it on badly needed things in the U.S.?
hey, let me tell you something. You know, I spent 2.5 years in Afghanistan. You talking about the most lying, stealing, cheating, you know, bunch of folks you could ever see in your life. Because it's the Silk Route. It's all about bargaining. And if we don't understand, and that's why I talk about nation building and occupation-style warfare, all it does is drain economic resources. You can't get certain people in the world to be like us. There are places you're not going to be able to introduce democracy. Yes, I spent, time in Iraq in 2003, and I was back there also in Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm. It's a complete paradigm shift that we have to have as far as how we utilize our military and our economic resources. We can't go in and rebuild everyone's country. We just cannot do that, especially in countries. Well, I think because the Taliban, kind of was shielding Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda, and they attacked us back in 2001. But the thing is that there was a point when I was there in 2006, when there was a deal that was made with Pakistan that allowed them to have skin sanctuaries over the northwest frontier provinces. And as soon as that deal was cut, we saw Yemenis, we saw Chechens, we saw everyone start to populate that area, come across the border and attack our soldiers and our forces, as well as resources coming in from Iran. So there comes a point where we say we've done all that we can possibly do, and the next time you see us, it will not be good.
Ernie Smith, Lake Worth. He would like an update on HBOT and TBI for our veterans.
Well, one of the things that we have to do currently, when I get back to Washington, D.C., we've got to go through the defense appropriations bill. We've got to go through a lengthy process of marking that up, as we say, to make sure we fund the military for fiscal year 2012. After we can get that defense appropriations bill approved, then we will turn around in House subcommittee hearings. We will start hearing things as far as alternative